Thank you. I'm out. Thank you for your kind words. Well, I'd like to start off with a basic question. How long can you sit in one place and focus? Maybe work, maybe study. For some, it might be 8 hours. For some, 4. Others, 2. Me personally, 15 minutes, give or take. This is me and my friends trying to study on a random day. Yes. You may ask, how did I manage to stay competitive in school through all these years of rigorous schooling, be it the IG or IB? Well, to put it simply, I didn't. Chapter 1. Let that sink in. So, it was that day, which every student knows all too well, PTM season. My mother sitting beside me, holding my report card with that look of disappointment I knew so well. We were waiting for the teachers to join the Zoom meeting. As they joined, they shared that look of disappointment on their faces. All of them shared the same words too. You're such a smart kid. You're a bright kid. Why doesn't it show in your grades? You seem so intelligent in class. You seem to know the answers to everything in class. Why can't you write that in the paper? Well, I would just sit there like a statue, not quite knowing the answer myself. Until one teacher suggested something. She said, there may be more than meets the eye. In my years of experience, this seems like a textbook case of ADHD, also known as Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. I, as a naive teenager, did not quite understand what it meant or the toll it took. But she had logic behind it. I was struggling to sit in class for more than 10 minutes. I was not able to write complete answers. I would have to leave responses in between and pick them up later. I would get distracted by the droning of a bee. It's a miracle I'm standing here in front of you, not distracted by random doors opening or little bursts of light coming from different doors. But here I am in front of you. My mother, who is a psychologist by degree, thought that the notion held merit. And due to upcoming exams, I was asked to do a screening as soon as possible. Chapter 2. Society's Outlook. Well, because of the urgency of the situation, there was only one slot available. It was a day I had to go for a family lunch. En route, my mother said something that stuck with me. She said, if anyone asks why you're leaving early, just say you're going to Powai to meet some friends. I was taken aback. My mother, the same one who's a psychologist by profession, the same one who's always taught me to be against lying, had just asked me to lie. But I do not blame her for it. We live in a society where we are judged constantly and people talk ruthlessly, often without even knowing my name or what it means, but just to make conversation over a little cup of tea. Well, people do talk ruthlessly. And when they heard the words ADHD, they would often have one of 3 reactions. The first, they wouldn't quite know what ADHD meant. They would just hear the word psychiatrist and assume I've gone clinically crazy. The second would say it's just an excuse or a bad justification for falling grades. And just say, oh yeah, he's just trying to get out of schoolwork. He's just lazy. The third, the minority who would actually try to empathize with me, look up what it actually meant, and try to work with me to get through it. Yes, talking to the minority would have been of major help. But the fear that someone would be part of that majority who would judge and belittle me always kept me from saying it out loud. Maybe this was the reason my mother was never able to practice the profession she wanted to. Chapter 3. Denial. Sitting here, pondering, looking back, maybe it took me this long to realize that I could take the testing accommodations and it wouldn't be too bad. Maybe a part of the reason was that oftentimes in society, when we try to decide our limits, when we try to define our limits, it's not limited by how far we are willing to go or by how comfortable we are with them, but how accepting or how comfortable society is with our limits. Oftentimes we're bound within these bindings because of 3 words. 3 words every Indian knows far too well. Log kya kahenge, or in English, what would society think? These words stick with every child here, I'm sure. Because every time we try to do something that is outside the notion of normal, outside the scope of these normalcies, we are always targeted by these same words. What would people think? What will people say? That you're going against this, you're going against that? Well, let people say what they want. It's your life and your duty. Chapter 4, Acceptance. Sitting there, I never realized, but every time I would try to face with my ADHD, I would always tell myself, I can combat it, it's not that big of a deal. I can face it. What's the worst? I'm not failing or anything. I can just, at least, I don't have to be there. At least I can be normal. So what if I'm leaving answers empty? So what if my papers are being left? What if I'm not at my maximum potential? At least I was normal. At least I was writing my exams with my peers. At least I was not sitting in a secluded corner of the school writing my papers alone. This fear of being outside normalcy, this fear of not fitting in, had led to me reaching grade 12 without ever taking the accommodations I needed, almost 2 years later. Almost 2 years later, when I was sitting there, pondering during October of my 12th grade or senior year, every student knows this time way too well. You're sitting there locking in your early action universities, your predicted grades are being locked in. And that's when you realize every little point matters. Every little point could help you get into a better university, could help you secure your future better. And maybe they do help. And it's still one of my deepest regrets that I didn't take the accommodations when I could in 10th grade or my SAT. But hey, if I did, maybe I wouldn't be standing here in front of you. So, well, looking back when I accepted and when I actually accepted this and took the testing accommodations I needed, I was able to grapple with the decision. I was able to increase my grades from my SA1 to SA2 with a staggering 6-point increase. And yes, that did help with my motivation. Yes, that did help me study better. Which also made me realize, but far more than that, was me being accepted by society. My friends, my family, the peers I cared about were honest and were always welcoming of me. They were in fact happier that I was able to express myself with them, that I was comfortable expressing myself with them. And yes, people do talk, but it was never people I cared about anyways. Chapter 5, Embracing. So now that I did accept it, the next step was embracing how I could go through it. And I would like to remind everyone here who is struggling, whether struggling with ADHD or not, struggling with their identity, struggling by being embarrassed of themselves at the littlest of things. I'd like to remind you, yeah, people will talk about you, maybe for 8 to 10 minutes, and then move on to the next topic of gossip. But is saving yourself from those 8 to 10 minutes of embarrassment, are those 8 to 10 minutes of embarrassment really worth sacrificing a lifetime of happiness? I'd like you to ponder over it. Maybe be happy for a second. Maybe put yourself before the society. And to everyone struggling with ADHD and taking care of their time management and procrastination, I have certain tips that I found useful. Firstly, turn on focus modes on your iPhone. They really do help by minimizing notifications and distractions. Secondly, using planners like Notion that help you set up your entire to-do list and tasks and link everything so that you do not go in a frenzy looking for something. And lastly, using browsers like Arc that help you minimize your breaks and not make them into large doom scrolling sessions. Finally, I'd like to remind everyone here, it's time we stepped out of the little binds that we are kept in, the confines of society. In the words of Oscar Wilde, to love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance. Learn to love yourself. Learn to accept yourself. Learn to look yourself in the mirror and be proud of who you are today. Because you've grown a little from who you were yesterday. Now, I'd like to encourage everyone to break that wall, open that window, and step out from the confines of what society has bind you in. Thank you.